I'm sorry, I had to tease Pastor Portman because the last time I was invited up here, he had his hand up to shake my hand, and I walked right past it. So, all right, this seems really close. Is this okay? Okay, that's all right. Anyhow, last time I had you sit before I even read scripture, so I'm going to try to do that right too. I want to thank Pastor Portman for trusting me. Seriously, thank you. I can't imagine why, but he did. So if we want to go to our opening text, and then you can be seated at the right time. Let's go to Genesis 1, verse 27. Trying to see if my son wants to yell at me, but I look okay. So, Genesis 1:27. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him. Male and female created he them. You may be seated. So, before I skip past that verse, I noticed something. I actually counted the words. I know that's a little weird, but it seems like a pretty short verse. It's actually only 23 words. But inside those 23 words, we see that God is our creator. We see it 3 times, okay? In the same verse, 3 times, God is our creator. So there goes evolution and Big Bang and everything else. God is our creator. And then we see, and I found this very interesting, God created man in his own image, in the image of God. How it immediately duplicated to make sure we didn't miss the point that we are created in God's image. And then it talks about creation again at the very end of the verse, all that in 23 words. So tonight I titled my message, Eternal Imprint. I looked that up in the dictionary, and there were 2 distinct definitions for imprint. One is a mark impressed or stamped onto a softer substance, like that, an image. The other comes from zoology. It's a zoology definition that refers to a young, anything in creation, that comes to recognize another animal, person, or thing as a parent/teacher and someone that they should trust, that they trust implicitly. Okay? So I'm going to start. I'll give you the biblical word first. The biblical word is Greek, and it's itupu, and it means to engrave or to imprint. So we'll look at the zoology first. Do I have any of my old students in here? Yeah, there's a few. Yeah, okay. So some of you might remember that Sister Carpenter watches an eagle's nest, right? Yeah, teachers might remember that too. And I still watch an eagle's nest. I'll be starting to tune in again really soon because I watch a Decorah, Iowa nest, and those eagles will probably be having eggs, not hatched, but laid within the next couple weeks. And so then I'll watch it, I'll follow it. Those eggs hatch about 30 days later, and after they hatch, I get to watch these eaglets, right, being raised. It's a rare opportunity that we now have because we have cams, right? Years ago, they had to second guess what was going up there 80 feet up in the air. Now we put cams, right? And we can see in and we can get these glimpses of nature. And when an eaglet is born, when it's hatched, it is 100% dependent on its parents, the same way a human child would be. It can't feed itself. It cannot keep itself warm. It is 100% dependent on good parents, and both parents raise eagles. And when they're first born, they weigh about 3 ounces. and they got these wobbly necks, all part of them trying to break out of their shell. And they can barely hold their neck up to be fed, but they learn. They also learn that if they're just going to sit there and wait for the food to come to them, they might be disappointed. Mom and dad might do that for the first few days, but eventually, mom and dad expect them to come to the food. And if you don't go to the food, your brother or sister will. There's usually 2 eaglets, sometimes 3, sometimes 1. So that is called imprinting. When the eaglet is watching its parent intently watching the parent. And that's how they learn. That's how they learn to squawk when they're hungry. They learn how to, as they get just a little bit older, they'll actually learn how on their knees at first, because they're not walking yet, to get to the edge of the nest and turn and face into the nest to eliminate so they're not making a mess in the nest. It's just but eagles don't speak. And so the parents didn't teach them verbally. They learned that through being imprinted by watching mom and dad. In Florida, a nest I don't watch, you can only watch so many nests, there was an eagle's nest, and the parent, I can't remember if it was the mother or the father, had gone in, swooped into an eagle's, a red-tailed hawk nest, swooped in, grabbed a live red-tailed hawk baby, which is called an eos, and took it for a food source to bring to their nest for the eagles. So this little baby, red-tailed hawk, was going to be fed to the eagles. And before the parent could start doing that and using it as a food source, it squawked. It squawked just like the baby eaglets that were about to be fed. So they're squawking because they want to be fed. And red-tailed hawk just squawked along. And they confused the parent, and the eagle started feeding the red-tailed hawk. It actually survived the experience. It actually lived all the way till fledge, which was amazing to biologists and ornithologists and scientists that it actually survived being raised in an eagle's nest. The sad part is that it wasn't going to survive. It wasn't going to survive. Why? Because it was not imprinted by its own kind. It was imprinted with eagle ways of survival, eagle's way of eating, eagle's food sources. Everything that an eagle does is what the red-tailed hawk learned. So they all said that, wow, it was amazing he fledged, but he's not going to make it. He simply cannot make it. So in Necedah, Wisconsin, it's kind of interesting, they decided they wanted to reintroduce whooping cranes into our state. We used to have them, and we didn't anymore. And so they had eggs, right? Whooping crane eggs, and they raised them until they hatched. But now we have a problem. We didn't have any adult cranes to raise. In that case, I think those are colts. Yeah, they're called colts. And so there were no adult cranes to raise these colts once they hatched. So you can look this up online. It's actually very interesting. The biologists and the ornithologists and the caretakers actually wore white costumes, and on one hand they put like a puppet-like thing on one arm that looked like, a crane's long neck, and it had the beak and it had the red stripe, because they knew if they imprinted those colts with a human face and with human ways, they would not survive either. And so it's interesting to look at nature, and then we take it into the spiritual, right? And so we ourselves are meant, now first we're imprinted. That was our first scripture in Genesis. We're imprinted, right, by the image of God. And if we go to Ezekiel, if you'll go with me to Ezekiel chapter 36, I'm going to start in verse 24. We're all familiar with this. The Bible quizzers could say it for us. But I am going to start in 24. For I will take you from among the heathen and gather you out of all countries, and will bring you unto your own land. Then I will sprinkle clean water upon you, and ye shall be clean. From all your filthiness, from all of your idols, will I cleanse you. A new heart also will I give you, and a new spirit will I put within you. And I will take away the stony heart out of your flesh, and I will give you a heart of flesh. And I will put my spirit within you. And why? And cause you to walk in my statutes, and ye shall keep my judgments and do them. Now we're being imprinted. Our hearts are being imprinted by God. And we get cleansed through baptism. When we get the Holy Spirit, we're getting this new heart, this Spirit of God. And now we're really supposed to walk in the image of God. We're supposed to put away the filthiness and walk. And so let's turn to Ephesians 4. We'll start in verse 21. If so be that ye have heard him, and have been taught by him, as the truth is in Jesus, that we put off concerning the former conversation, the old man, which is corrupt according to the deceitful lust, and be renewed in the spirit of your mind, that ye put on the new man, which after God is created in righteousness and true holiness. And so we don't just get baptized and receive his spirit and get imprinted by him for ourselves. No, it's so much more than that. Why would he want us to walk around in righteousness and in true holiness unless he wants us imprinting? Unless we ourselves, now that we've been imprinted, our new heart, our fleshly heart that God was able to write his statutes on, now we are imprinted with his image, and we should be the image of him to the world around us. So, don't ask me why, but my notes are all grouped up here. Get back on track. So my question is, or maybe your question is, I've already proved to myself, I'll let you guys make your own decision. Do we as humans imprint? Or is that just terminology that belongs in the zoological world? Do we imprint the people around us? Well, I'll give you an example in my life. It was early December, and I was sitting in the living room reading, and I heard a knock on the door, and I thought it was my son, Jamie. And so I got up and I answered. I don't usually answer my door unless I know someone's coming, right? Just a freaky thing because I live alone. But I assumed it was Jamie. I got up, I answered the door, and I was very startled to see that it was my neighbor's daughter, Riley. She's 24 years old. And as I open the door, she's handing me something, and it's a floral arrangement. And she said, "We made these at work." And she said, everybody was saying what they were going to do with their floral arrangement, and I told them I was going to go bring it to you. I'm pretty taken aback. I'm not that close to Riley. I know her mom better, and I don't even know her mom that well. And so I'm surprised, and I'm thanking her. I said, "Well, come on in." And Riley was between the two doors, and she went around the storm door, and she goes, "Go ahead, Mom. Go without me." So her mom had actually been sitting in the driveway They were going out to dinner. It was dinner time. And she sent her mom on ahead because I invited her in. Now, I don't know about you guys. I think that's kind of strange. A 24-year-old that wants to hang out with a 70-year-old? And it's not like we're best buds or we've talked a lot. I thought it was odd. She was going to give up dinner with her mom to go hang out with the neighbor. But she came in. I offered her dinner. She didn't have it. We sat in the kitchen for a little while, and I said, you know what? I put a Christmas tree up today. It's the first time in 4 years. I said, let's go sit in the living room. So we went into the living room. We're just talking away like we've known each other all our lives, right? And we really haven't. I see her when I go out and I garden or I go get my mail, but we've had very short, brief, little snippets of conversation. But twice while she was there, she cussed. And both times she went, and she's just staring at me with these huge eyes like, oh, I slipped. And I didn't say anything. I didn't say it's okay. She said, I'm sorry. I go, and we just went on with the conversation twice. 2 hours she stayed at my house. Very unexpected. For 2 hours, she was constantly doing this. And 2 hours, she's doing this. And I'm like, it's just weird. I mean, this is just weird, isn't it? Why is Riley so uncomfortable with how she's dressed? We've never discussed holiness standards. I've never discussed that I don't like or I'm annoyed or if it's actually using God's name in vain, I'm absolutely downright offended. I've never had those conversations with Riley. So why am I getting those behaviors from her? Never been discussed with her mother either, so we can't say it came down from mom, oh, be careful around Sherry. No. So what could we conclude, at least I concluded, is without me having any idea, I had imprinted on a 24-year-old girl that without me knowing, without me having a single clue, right, she was watching me. Just like the eaglets watching their parents. She was observing me. She was noticing what I do and what I don't do, even though I've never said a word about it. I had an impression on Riley. Now that's an open door for me, right? That's an open door for me. So that was my story with Riley. I haven't seen her since. She waves wildly every time she sees me now in a car and passes. But I wanted to look at us now. That was the Riley story. Now let's talk about us. We all know that as parents, whether natural or spiritual parents, we are the first ones to impress on the babies. Yes? Right? I mean, grandma might come over and try to hog the baby for a while or whatever, grandpa, but basically speaking, the parents are the ones that are imprinting on the child, right? From birth on, right? You bring that child home and you're imprinting. And I think I'm in a church tonight and we're all churchgoers and Bible believers, and I believe we're all trying to imprint good lessons on our children. Be sure to share. No, don't hit. That's not nice. We don't treat people that way. Don't you yell. Tell me what you need. Tell me what you want. Screaming's not going to get what you want. Or, oh, no, you can't hit your brother because you're angry. True? Yeah, can I see hands? These are lessons we teach, right? And we teach them to love Jesus and to respect others and go to church, and we're trying to imprint early on onto the children. Now it gets a little dicey. It's easy. Use our mouths. and use verbiage to tell people what to do. Whether it's our natural children or our spiritual children. It's so easy for us to say, oh, do this or do that. I wish we wouldn't with spiritual babies. I wish we would just wait to imprint them and let God do it. But we do. But what if what we're teaching, the verbiage, is not matching the example we're setting? What if the kids that you're so busy, Brother Monday, you and Stephanie are so busy trying to teach godly ways and godly living and right, being good kids, what if they watched you guys have tear the roof down fights, yelling and screaming and bickering and throwing hurtful comments at each other, and then mom's crying and then dad's slamming things around, and anger has gone crazy. Okay, you tried to imprint with your words, but I guarantee you, they're learning more from your actions, from your example. I remember in my home, I was always taught not to hit, not to this, not, right, be respectful. I was raised all those ways too. For some reason it was okay for Dad, because if Dad got angry, he could tear the roof down. And it would get so explosive that I would run around the house if it was summertime, and I would close the windows because I didn't want the neighbors to hear it all. You know what that's called? I'm sure you do. Hypocrisy. Hypocrisy. When we speak one thing or we show one thing, but then we example the opposite. So let's take it out of the home now. Let's take it into your workplaces. Let's take it into your neighborhoods. Let's take it in the doctor's office. And the doctor's running late. Are you sitting there grouching and complaining like everybody else? Are you gossiping at work? Are you the same person outside of these walls that you are here? When you go to the family picnic, are you dressed as modestly as you would coming to church? You know, the people around us, they're watching us. Most of us, unfortunately, are being watched by people that want to prove we're not real. So they know we go to church a lot. They see holiness standards. They hear us talk about how we believe in the Bible, how important it is to us, how we want to live godly lives. But what are they seeing us do? What are we really imprinting on them? Okay, so I'm just going to rat out carpenter. So I was a smoker before I came to the Lord, and many years later, after an ugly divorce, and I was really tempted to go back to those cigarettes. And I was determined I wasn't going to buy myself cigarettes, but I did. What I did is at work, I would excuse it that this job is so stressful. I just need a cigarette to calm down. And I literally paid a coworker 50 cents so I could bum a cigarette, and I usually did that once or twice a day. What kind of example was that? They all knew I was a churchgoer. They all knew I was a fundamental Christian and that I didn't believe in smoking or drinking, but now I'm bumming cigarettes. I wonder what example showed better, my skirts or me outside smoking that one cigarette? So I could undo everything that I thought I was doing with one cigarette. And so I think, and I've just haven't gone to my notes at all, I'm so sorry. It's pretty simple. I think we need to self-examine. If we really want to impact our world, we really want to be authentic and genuine, it has to flow through our whole life. And I think a good standard to judge ourselves is, would I do this at church? So if you're at work and you think you can mouth off at the boss, you might want to stop and think, would I mouth off to my pastor? When you're gossiping at work and nobody hears you from church, you think you have your untarnished church imprintation going, right? But the people are watching us, and most of them, I really believe, want to slip us up. Most of the people that we come in contact with in our daily lives are annoyed by us. Is it just me? I annoy people. I know that me going to church 3 times a week, me going to Saturday morning prayer, me wearing skirts all the time, I know that absolutely annoys people. It does. I know that they're probably thinking, oh yeah, there's Sherry, super Christian. There she is, leaving her house again with her Bible. I am sure of it. Why would I guess that? Because I can't think of a single neighbor in a 2-block area on my street that goes to church. So they want to find us failing. They want to see us fall down so they can say, see, I knew that was just an act, right? And why would we give them that opportunity when we're trying to witness to them? So if we go to 1 Timothy 4:12, we'll see if it even fits where I am right now. We'll just see where this takes us. See if I can get back on track. 1 Timothy 4:12. Let no man despise thy youth, but be thou an example of the believers in word, in conversation, in charity, in spirit, in faith, in purity. So, we really need to be consistent. And I almost titled this a rougher title, and no, God didn't let me go there. But it could have been, who are you really? Who really are you? Are you the person that people see at church? Are you the person that the neighbors see leaving for church? Or are you really that person? So, everywhere we go, everyone we come in contact with, we have this opportunity to imprint, to show them the goodness of God, to show them love and kindness. And if we go to Colossians 3:5, I'm just so off my notes, we'll see where this goes. If we go to Colossians chapter 3, I'm going to start in verse 5. This is probably the reason I could just ramble on, is because I already wrote this about 6 times. So it's practically memorized. We go to Colossians chapter 3. I'm going to start in 12. Put on, therefore, as the elect of God, holy and beloved. We are the elect. We are holy and we are beloved, and we have been trusted, just like Pastor trusted the preaching to me tonight. God is entrusting us day in and day out to act like the elect, to be holy and beloved with bowels of mercy. Bowels, what does that mean? From your very innermost part. Bowels of mercy, kindness, humbleness of mind, meekness and long-suffering, forbearing one another, forgiving one another. If any man have a quarrel against any, even as Christ forgave you, so also ye do. So you can't have in your natural family, you can't have all kinds of infighting going on. You can't be yelling at a brother or sister on the phone or in person, because it tells us that we have to forgive our brothers and sisters. Natural, church brothers and sisters, neighbors. It tells us we have to. If he forgave us, we have to forgive. So let's go on then. For bearing one another, forgive, I'm sorry, I finished in 13. And above all these things, put on charity, love. How are they know a Christian? By our love, which is the bond of perfectness. And let the peace of God rule in your hearts, to the which also ye are called in one body, and be thankful. Thank you, Brother Frank. So, I know, it's a big order. It really can be. We're all flawed. I'm watching a series right now, Brother Woodward, and I'm done with 3 now out of 4. But we're all flawed. This church is flawed. I'm sorry, Pastor, but you're flawed. I'm flawed. Yeah, we're just going to be real tonight. We're not, right? We all have things we're working on. Here's the thing. Have we ever taken time to see where we're letting God down, and we are imprinting other people with all the things we don't believe in? Are you dressing the same way at the family picnic that you dress coming to church? Are you gossiping at work, but you're so proud of yourself you don't gossip here? Well, we spend, I don't know how many hours a week do we spend here, Pastor? Maybe 6 hours in services and an hour in prayer. 7 hours a week. 7 hours a week does not prove you are a Christian. 7 hours a week braces you up, restores you, refreshes you. You get the preaching of the word washed over your mind. You get communal prayer, and you get wonderful worship. Thank you, Brother Monty, and all the musicians. But that doesn't make you a Christian. There was a pastor here in Racine that just got arrested for assaulting young children in their congregation. A pastor, all over the headlines. Christian pastor in Racine, Wisconsin, assaulting teenagers. Christian pastor. We hear it all the time. Christian pastor embezzled money. And he did this, this, and this with the congregation's donations. So I've come to the point where I explain to my sister, who's kind of half New Age, half Islamic, no. Christian doesn't mean a hill of beans. I'm sorry. That's how I feel. Taking the title Christian does not mean a hill of beans. If you can't walk it, you can't talk it, you can't live it and example it, why don't you leave the title aside for a while until you get it? Because we can do more harm than good, letting people believe we're big bad Christians, and then they see us. Huh? I'm sure there's people that go to family picnics and drink, but they wouldn't dream of thinking coming to church, right? Somebody offers them a beer, they say yes. No. I'm sorry, there's higher expectations on us. So I already read Colossians 3:12 before I did the Colossians 5. Let's go there. Let's just go there. So if we go back to Colossians 3, this should have been first, and we go to verse 5, it says, mortify, therefore, your members. Mortify, kill, slay, push away, get it away from you. Mortify your members which are upon the earth: fornication, uncleanness, inordinate affection, evil concupiscence, and covetousness, which is idolatry. I don't know how many of you really know those words, but I looked them up for us because I thought some of those were pretty interesting, and I'm a book reader. Uncleanness that's mentioned is sin. Inordinate affection means desiring too strongly. Anything that you desire that takes a priority of your walk with Jesus is not a good thing, and that would be inordinate affection. You're taking affection and time from Jesus, and you're putting it on something else. Evil concupiscence is lust or strong desire. Covetousness is desiring more than you need, desiring something that belongs to another. And then it says in the scripture that that's idolatry. That's idolatry, according to Colossians 3:5. So I'll go on from 6. From which things' sake the wrath of God cometh on the children of disobedience. I don't think any of us want God's wrath. In the which ye are also walked sometime when you lived in them. I did. I walked the ways of the world. And any of you that weren't born in it have walked the ways of the world. And those that have born into it have probably struggled with walking and doing some of the things that the world does. But now ye also, verse 8, now ye also put off all these things, anger, wrath, malice, blasphemy, filthy communication out of your mouth. Cussing, swearing, dirty jokes, gossip. There's a whole lot I would put into that filthy communication. But they're all things we should be careful about. Lie not one to another, seeing that ye have put off the old man with his deeds. So again, we go back to the fact, and then in verse 10 it says, ye and have put on the new man, which is renewed in knowledge after the image of God that created him. You know, I was thinking when I was preparing this, I was like, so what happens if I'm not being real? If I'm not being the same person you see here in church when I'm outside of these walls, then instead of reflecting the beauty of Jesus, being they all know I'm a Christian, am I tarnishing his image? I'm sorry, Tim. Am I tarnishing his image? I believe we are. I believe that when we're outside of these walls and we are letting ourselves fall to a lower level, I believe that we are tarnishing the image of God. And shame on us. So, going back to Colossians 3, we should be forgiving, we should be full of kindness. And I'm thinking, how easy is this? This isn't hard. This isn't rocket scientist. The apostles asked Jesus, what's the greatest commandment? What? Of all those commandments, what should we be doing the most? And Jesus made it really easy. Let's go to Matthew. I believe it's 22. We'll start in 37. Actually, I'll start in 36. Master, which is the greatest commandment in the law? Oh, it was the lawyer. I'm sorry, it was not the apostles. In 37, Jesus said unto him, thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, and with all thy mind. This is the first and great commandment. The second is like unto it, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. On these two commandments hang all the law and the prophets. So what does that entail? I think this is kind of an interesting teaching tonight, coming off Pastor Portman's teaching this morning. So, and Brother Moran had mentioned during song service about giving God our all. Let's not give God little fragments, little pieces of ourselves and think we're so great because we go to 3 services a week and come to Saturday morning prayer. That's the start. That's my opinion. I'll admit that's my opinion. But we need a daily walk with Jesus. We need to be reading his word, letting it wash over us, letting it imprint us some more. Where's all this imprinting going to come from? Just 3 services a week? I don't think it's enough. But if we read every day, if we seek God in prayer, if we start our day, and I know it's hard if you're working and you're up and you're racing and you're trying to get to work on time. Can you pray in the car on your way if you couldn't make time ahead of time? I used to worship all the way to Franklin. That's my last job was in Franklin, Wisconsin. And I didn't pray, I didn't study before. I did my study in the evening. But I can remember going down the freeway and I'd be talking to God and I'd be worshiping to music and I was having my Jesus time. And rarely, if ever, I would notice somebody, because my hand went this way, and all of a sudden I noticed the driver next to me, and they're like, whoa, maybe we should call 911 and get the sheriff's department out here because there's a wacko on the road. But it was my time with Jesus. I remember coming home from work. I can remember working till after 6, had a great emergency going. I knew I'd be still tied to my phone. And I can remember talking to Jesus. I like to talk to him on it at home too. And I would say, oh, Jesus, you know I'm exhausted. You know I just don't have the energy to get to service tonight. I just can't do it. And I wouldn't get about 5 minutes farther down the road. I'd say, you understand, right, God? I mean, you know how tired, you know what this day was like. You understand, right, God? 5 minutes later, I'm like, yep, I know, God, I'm coming. So then I'm telling, how humbling and embarrassing. So then I'm telling God, okay, fine, I'll go to church. But I'm exhausted, and I'm going to leave. I think this comes from my Catholic days. I'm going to leave as soon as the service is over, before the altar call, before anybody could stop and talk to me. I'm out of there. I'm tired. I need to get home. You understand this, God. You know my whole day. Don't we love telling God how we think it's going to be, and then having fun seeing how he actually intends it's going to be? Every time I had to drag myself in because I was tired and I didn't think I was in the mood for church, I was usually one of the last ones out. No, for real. I mean, Brother Frank was probably waiting for me saying, Sister Carpenter, are you going home sometime tonight? Well, like you do now, but but back then, this tired lady who was trying to tell God I couldn't go, and then told him why I was going to leave. As soon as the preaching was over, I was out of there. So every day, if we're seeking God, every day, for me, it's morning. It doesn't have to be for everyone. I don't work. I'm retired. But I like studying in the morning and going into prayer because I like to ask God what his will is for me that day. What do you need me to do? What would you like me to do? What don't you want me to do, Jesus? Can you come and order my steps? Can you order my day? Can you stay with me during my day? Because then I know anything that comes against me, I'm okay because Jesus and I are doing it together. And so I love mornings. I know it's not for everybody, but I love mornings. So I think it's real easy. We follow the 2 great commandments. Psalms 19:14 says, let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in his sight. Isaiah 26:3 says that thou wilt keep him in perfect peace. How many people are troubled? They're always troubled. They're anxious. They're just not happy. But Isaiah 26:3 tells us that if we would keep him, or he would keep us in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on him. Why do I reach for Jesus when I wake up? Why do I try to ignore my phone? And that came through really strong for a few services in a row. Distractions, distractions, distractions. So I've actually had to learn, okay, don't even leave it on vibrate because that catches my attention. So now it's not completely off. My phone's completely off. This is my Jesus time. Whatever's happening will happen when my Jesus time is over, even if that takes hours. It's okay. Romans 8:6 warns us that to be carnally minded is death. So if we wake up every day and we just jump into our day and we live in our flesh and we haven't connected with Jesus, doesn't that get us just a wee bit carnally minded? So, to be spiritually minded, to finish that scripture, is life and peace. So I'm believing if we fulfill the first commandment and we love Jesus with all our heart and soul and mind, and not just offer him little pieces, we get on a better start. We're better at reflecting his image to the world around us. I'm pretty sure I could speak for all of you, but I shouldn't, I know. But I don't think any of us want to be just an image Christian where people are perceiving us to be really good people. I would rather them to really see goodness in me. I don't know what Riley sees in me. I had Mormon neighbors on the other side of me that couldn't get enough of Leah and I don't know why. They were in their early 20s too. It's just beyond imagination sometime. But if we go to Galatians 5, we're going to read about the fruits of the Spirit. This is what I think the outcome will be as we slay our flesh and stay closer to Jesus and give him our all. So Galatians 5:22-23. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, long-suffering, gentleness, goodness, faith, meekness, temperance. Against such there is no love. And they that are Christ have crucified the flesh with the affections of and lust. And if we live in the Spirit, let us also walk in the Spirit. So it's not just verbiage, and it's not just our outward holiness. It's fine that they see our outward holiness. We're certainly not hiding that. It's something we believe in. But better yet, that our inside holiness, our image of Jesus, is reflecting more than our outside holiness standards. Because not everybody that wears a skirt should be calling themselves a Christian, right? And so I think we have this amazing opportunity. I was looking through pictures, family pictures the other day, and I saw pictures of aunts and uncles I never got to meet. They died before I was born. And I thought to myself, there's nobody left on the earth that knows these people. And I realized we basically have a 2-generation impact on our world in the flesh. We can affect our children and our grandchildren. Maybe you get as blessed as me. I have 8 great-grandchildren. But unless I live at least 10 years longer, I'm not thinking, they probably not remember me, right? Because small children, if they're 3 and 4, they're not going to have long-lasting memories. But here's the thing, and here's why I titled it Eternal Imprint. If we can truly be the image of God, and we can really walk in the fruits of the Spirit, and we can be who we let everybody think we are, really be that, right? We could have an eternal imprint that will last generation after generation after generation. A love for God, a love for church, a rightly walk, a godly walk can follow us for generations and generations to come. So choose us this day. What imprint do you want to make on your world? I'll go to my last scripture. I have no idea how long. And I apologize for that. If the musicians want to come, that would be fine. I can't find anything because I just skipped right past all the order of my notes that I spent so much time ordering. I believe I wanted to go back to 1 Timothy 4:12 as my last scripture. Let's see if that's it. I think it is. 1 Timothy, we've read it before. I'd like to read it again. Let no man despise thy youth, but be thou an example of the believers in word, in conversation, in charity, in spirit, in faith, and in purity. And if we skip then down to verse 16, take heed unto thyself and unto the doctrine. Continue in them, for in doing this thou shalt both save thyself and them that hear you. And I'm going to add, and see you. So God bless you. Thank you for this opportunity to talk to you tonight. As we come to the altar, maybe we could all spend a few minutes just thinking of what our imprint might actually really be, especially outside of these walls. And then I think we could thank God. I think we could go to Thanksgiving that He has given us this great privilege, this amazing privilege to reflect Him in our world and impact our world. We want to impact our city. Let's start in our own four walls of our home. Let's impact in our neighborhoods. Let's be who we should be, reflecting our Jesus. And then let's take it out in the neighborhoods. Let's take it out to the parks. Let's take it out to the city. But it has to be real. It has to be authentic. It can't be phony. I love you all. Thank you.
I'm sorry when I've just gone through the motions. I'm sorry when I just sang another song. Take me back.